My sister crashed my Tesla, then smirked. My parents said, "It's just a joke." She shoved $50 in my face. "Idiot, take it and leave." I kept quiet. What this idiot did next left everyone shocked. I stand next to my Tesla and can't believe what I'm seeing. The front bumper is half gone, the left headlight is completely smashed, and the hood is dented as if someone deliberately tried to destroy it. I bought this car 2 years ago, a Model S, black, shiny, perfect. I spent all my savings and took out a 5-year loan. It was my symbol. I, without my parents' help, without anyone's charity, bought what I had dreamed of. And now Jenny is standing next to me, leaning on the broken fender, wearing the sunglasses I gave her for her last birthday. She smiles, not guiltily, not shyly, smugly, as if she had just won the lottery. I slowly walk around the car, trying to understand the extent of the damage. The plastic is cracked, the metal is bent, even the radiator grill is hanging on one bracket. Pieces of glass are scattered across the asphalt, small as confetti. The wheel is bent at a strange angle, and I realize that the suspension is also damaged. That's several $1,000s in repairs, at least 3, maybe 5. Jenny unfolds something in her hand, a $50 bill. She hands it to me, and I see an expression on her face that I know well from childhood. It's the expression of someone who is sure that everything is allowed to her, that someone will always clean up after them, fix things, forgive them. "For the repairs," she says. "Don't make a scene here, you idiot. Take it and get out." I look at my sister and feel a chill spread through my body. Not anger, not rage, something worse. Emptiness. Jenny shoves the bill right in my face and I automatically take it. My fingers clench the paper, but I feel nothing. "What happened?" I ask quietly. "How did you do it?" Jenny shrugs. "I didn't see the curb," she replies indifferently. "It was dark. I was driving fast. The music was playing." "You idiot, don't make me feel guilty. Your car is old. It needed to be replaced anyway." "Old? It's 2 years old. I'm still paying off the loan. $437 a month, and that's a quarter of my salary." I open my mouth to say something, but the words get stuck in my throat. Jenny takes out her phone and checks her messages without looking at me. She's wearing a new blouse, silk, light pink, with tiny pearl buttons. Expensive, the kind I can't afford even with the discount at the store where I work. Probably $120, if not more. "Jenny," I say, trying to stay calm, "it's my car. I saved up for 3 years to buy it. You know how much repairs cost." She finally looks up from her phone and stares at me as if I've just said something offensive. "God, what a drama queen," she says, and rolls her eyes. "Here's $50, take it and shut up. Or do you want me to tell Mom and Dad that you're blaming me? That you yelled at me, swore at me?" I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. But I know Jenny is capable of telling Mom and Dad anything, and they'll believe her. They always have. I clench my teeth. I breathe. I count to 10. Then again. I look at my sister, who is staring at her phone again, and I feel something inside me break. Not loudly, not dramatically. Quietly, like a crack in glass. I call a taxi through the app and wait silently. Jenny stands next to me, smiling at something she sees on the screen. Maybe she's texting her boyfriend or watching funny videos. She doesn't care. The car is wrecked. I'm standing next to it holding $50 and she just doesn't care. The taxi arrives in 7 minutes. I get in the back seat and the driver asks for the address. I give him mine. He looks in the rearview mirror, notices the look on my face, and doesn't say another word. The radio is on, playing some pop music, cheerful, unbearable. I look out the window. We drive past the park where I used to run in the mornings, past the cafe where I used to buy coffee before work. Now there will be no coffee. Now there will be nothing at all except savings. In the evening, I call my parents. My mother, Laura, answers after the 3rd ring. I hear the TV in the background, some talk show, loud with the audience laughing. "Mom," I say. Jenny wrecked my car. Pause. The TV continues to roar. Then my mother sighs, long, wearily, as if I had just told her about another trivial thing that annoyed her. "Okay," she says, and I hear her turn down the TV. "Well, Jenny said it was just a joke." "Have you made up yet?" I blink, trying to understand what I've heard. "What joke, Mom? She wrecked my Tesla. The front bumper is torn off, the headlight is broken. It's thousands of dollars. 3, maybe 5. I don't know where to get the money." "Don't be dramatic," my mother interrupts me. "Jenny said you were joking, that you let her drive the car and then got offended because of some scratch. She didn't mean to hurt your feelings. You know what she's like. A scratch." I close my eyes. I see the broken bumper, the bent wheel, the smashed headlight. "Mom, it's not a scratch. It's a serious accident. The car is not drivable." "Well, you'll get it repaired," says my mother. "You have insurance." "The insurance doesn't cover it if I wasn't driving," I say. "The deductible is high, and anyway." I hear my father pick up the phone. His voice is calm and measured, as always, the same voice he's used to talk to me with my whole life, patient, a little tired, as if explaining something to a small child. "Lana," he says, "you know your sister. She's not perfect, but she has a good heart. Forgive her. Don't make a big deal out of it. She gave me $50, Dad, for repairs that cost thousands, and she called me an idiot." My father is silent for a few seconds. Then he says, "You know she didn't mean it. Jenny is emotional. She always has been. Don't take it to heart." I hang up without saying goodbye. I sit on the floor of my tiny studio apartment and stare at the wall. My parents didn't see the car. They believe Jenny because they've always believed her. And me, I'm always the one who dramatizes, who exaggerates, who can't just forgive and move on. For the next 2 weeks, I take the bus to work. I get up at 6 in the morning instead of 7 because the route is indirect and involves 2 transfers. First, it's a 15-minute walk to the bus stop, then bus number 34 to the center, a transfer to number 12, and another 10 minutes on foot to the store. I save on everything. I take lunch from home. Rice with vegetables, sometimes eggs. I don't buy coffee. Although I used to get a cappuccino every morning at the cafe across from work, I don't spend money on the subway. I walk when I can. I've even stopped buying cosmetics, even though I work in a cosmetics store and always use the employee discount. I leave my Tesla parked near the house. I can't stand looking at it, but I can't take it to the repair shop either. I don't have the money. $50 from Jenny is tucked away in my wallet, tucked between receipts, and every time I see it, I feel something tighten inside. My coworkers ask why I'm taking the bus. I say my car is in the shop. I smile. They believe me because why wouldn't they? I'm Lana, always smiling, always polite, the one you can count on. A month later, a woman calls me. She speaks quickly, indistinctly, with an accent. Something about documents and real estate, about re-registration, about deadlines. I don't understand what she's talking about and ask again, but the connection is bad, disappearing and reappearing. The conversation is cut off mid-sentence. I look at the phone and try to call back, but the number is unknown and cannot be identified. I think it's a mistake, or just more spammers, of which there have been too many lately. But something about this call makes me feel anxious. The same anxiety I felt when I stood next to the wrecked car and looked at Jenny's smile. Chapter 2. I was 9 when my parents gave me a bike for my birthday. It was blue with white stripes on the frame and a bell that rang so clearly I could listen to it for hours. I had dreamed about a bike for a whole year, drawing it in my notebooks and cutting out pictures from catalogs. Jenny was 5 at the time. She stood to one side as I unwrapped my present, looking as if she had been forgotten when the sweets were handed out. My mother, Laura, stroked her head and said, "You're still little, sweetie, but when you grow up, you'll have one too." A week later, I came home from school and saw Jenny sitting by the front door. She was sitting on the asphalt and crying, and my bike was lying nearby, bent with the front wheel torn off and the seat scratched. It turned out that she had decided to ride down the stairs. She lost control. My mother ran out of the house, picked up Jenny, and examined her. She had a graze on her knee and a bruise on her elbow. Then she looked at me and said, "You're older, Lana. You should have been watching her." "Why did you leave the bike unattended?" I didn't cry. I stood and looked at the broken frame, at the wheel spinning on a single spoke. My father, Ethan, came out in the evening, looked at it and said, "Well, these things happen. We won't buy a new one. We don't have the money. Jenny didn't do it on purpose." The bike stayed in the garage until spring, when my father threw it in the trash. Jenny was always the favorite, not because she was nicer or smarter, but simply because she knew how to be weak at the right moment. She could cry when she needed to. She could pretend to be sick. She could say that she was scared, lonely, or having a hard time. And my mother always believed her. I was taught to be strong, not to cry, not to complain, not to ask for anything extra. "You're a smart girl, Lana. You're the older one. You understand everything." When I was 16, there was a prom at school. I bought a dress on sale, simple, gray, but I liked it. I ironed it twice so there wouldn't be any wrinkles. I did my hair myself in front of the mirror, watching tutorials on YouTube. My parents promised to come. They said they would sit in the hall and applaud when I received my diploma. They didn't come. Jenny wasn't feeling well that evening. She had been at a friend's party, came home at 2 in the morning, and felt nauseous in the morning. My mother said someone had to be home in case Jenny got worse. My father agreed. He always agreed with my mother. I sat in the auditorium, watching other children hug their parents after the ceremony, receive flowers, and have their pictures taken. My homeroom teacher came up to me and asked if everything was okay. I smiled and said, "Yes, of course, my parents are just late from work." I walked home, holding my diploma in my hands. I entered the apartment. Jenny was sleeping on the couch, my mother was watching a TV series, and my father was reading the newspaper. No one asked how graduation went. I went to my room, hung my dress in the closet, and put my diploma on the shelf. I didn't cry. I just lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. I started working when I was 16, first as a cashier in a supermarket, evening shifts after school. They paid minimum wage, but it was my money. I bought clothes, cosmetics, food when I didn't want to eat at home. I gave some of it to my parents. My mother said I had to help the family. Jenny didn't work. She enrolled in college to study interior design. A year passed, and she dropped out. She enrolled to study psychology. 6 months passed, and she said it was boring. Then she enrolled in marketing, photography, and hotel management. 3 colleges, no degrees. My parents paid for everything: tuition, textbooks, transportation. When I asked why they didn't pay for my college, my mother said, "You work, Lana, you earn your own money. But Jenny needs help, she hasn't found herself yet." I found myself at 18. I got a job as a saleswoman at the Eclat cosmetics store. A small store with 2 windows but a good selection. The owner, Mrs. Clark, was a thin woman in her 50s who hated tardiness and loved order. I was never late. I mopped the floor after my shift, arranged the merchandise by color, and learned the names of all the creams and lipstick shades. A year later, Mrs. Clark raised my salary, not by much, only $50, but for me it was everything. She said, "You're the only one who works and doesn't just sit around." During this time, Jenny managed to finish another college and get 3 jobs. The first was a cafe where she worked for 2 weeks and quit because the manager was rude. The second was a beauty salon, where she was fired for being constantly late. The third was a clothing store, where she worked for a month and left on her own because she didn't want to work on weekends. Her mother always made excuses for her. Jenny wasn't to blame. She was just unlucky with jobs. It was hard for her to find her place. She wasn't smart, but she would definitely find something more suitable. The only person who treated me differently was Grandma Evelyn. She lived on the outskirts of town in a small red brick house with a porch where flowers grew in clay pots in the summer. Grandma was a tough woman. She didn't like pity, couldn't stand lies, and didn't forgive laziness. But she loved me. I visited her every weekend, first with my parents, then on my own, by bus. Grandma taught me how to bake pies, plant flowers, and fix the faucet in the kitchen. She talked to me like an adult. about money, about work, about how important it is not to depend on the kindness of others. "You're a smart girl, Lana," she said. "Don't let anyone use you, not even your family." Jenny rarely visited her grandmother, only a couple of times a year on holidays. Grandma didn't like her and didn't hide it. She said that Jenny would grow up to be a failure if her mother didn't stop making excuses for her. Her mother took offense at this. She said that her grandmother was too strict, that she didn't understand how tender Jenny's heart was. Grandmother Evelyn died 3 years ago, in February. A stroke, sudden, in the middle of the night. I found out in the morning. My mother called, crying, saying I had to come. I took a day off work and arrived that same day. The funeral was modest. Grandma didn't like pomp and circumstance. We buried her in the local cemetery under an old oak tree as she wanted. My mother cried loudly. My father held her hand. Jenny stood to the side in a black dress, which she seemed to have bought especially for the occasion, and wiped her eyes with a handkerchief from time to time. I didn't cry. I stood by the grave and remembered how my grandmother and I sat on the porch last summer drinking mint tea, and she told me how she met my grandfather, how he asked her to marry him 2 weeks after they met, and she agreed because he was honest. After the funeral, we gathered at my parents' house. My mother set the table with borscht, potatoes, and salad. We ate in silence. Then my father, Ethan, said that my mother had left the house to us, that it would be fair. The girls were still young and didn't need to think about that now. I didn't ask if there was a will. I didn't ask what my grandmother had said before she died. I just nodded and finished my borscht. At 25, I moved out of my parents' house. I rented a tiny studio apartment on the second floor of an old building, 20 square meters with a mini kitchen and a shower instead of a bathtub. The rent was $500 a month, plus utilities. My parents didn't object. They even seemed happy. My mother said, "Well, you're an adult now. It's time to live on your own." My father helped me move my things, 1 box of clothes, 1 of books, 1 of dishes. Jenny was at home that day. She was lying on the couch, watching something on her laptop. When I picked up the last box, she looked at me and said, "Finally, you're leaving. There's so little space here." After I left, my parents hired a housekeeper, twice a week for 2 hours. They paid her $120 a month. When I lived at home, I cleaned for free. Working at Éclat gave me stability, not wealth. My salary was $1,200 a month, but I knew how to save. I bought clothes on sale, cooked at home, and didn't go to cafes unless I had to. I saved $200 every month. After 2 years, I had enough for a down payment on a car. I wanted something reliable, beautiful, something that would say, "I did it. I did it myself." The Tesla Model S cost $45,000. I put down $15,000, all my savings. I took out a 5-year loan for the rest at $437 a month. When I first got behind the wheel, started the engine, and heard how quietly it ran, I felt that it was the best decision of my life. It was my car, my victory. No one gave it to me, no one helped me. I earned it myself. 2 months ago, I went on vacation. For the first time in 3 years, Mrs. Clark allowed me to take a week off, reluctantly, but she allowed it. I bought a ticket to Miami for $180 round trip and found a hotel for $35 a night. Not on the beach, of course, but 2 miles from the ocean. But that didn't matter. I just wanted to be alone, away from work, away from my parents, away from Jenny. A week before I left, my sister called me. It was around 10 in the evening, and I was packing my bag when her name lit up on my phone screen. "Lana," she said, without greeting me. "Listen, your car is just going to be sitting there, right? A week near the house, nobody needs it. Can I borrow it for a couple of days? I need it for a job interview." I froze with the t-shirt in my hands. A job interview? Jenny hadn't had a job for 6 months. Her last attempt ended in scandal. She accused her boss of bias when he reprimanded her for being late. "Where's the interview?" I asked cautiously. "To a marketing agency," Jenny replied quickly. "It's a good position with a decent salary, but I have to look presentable, you understand? I can't take the bus." I bit my lip. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say that I needed the car, that it was expensive, that I didn't want to give it to anyone. But then my mother intervened. "Lana," she said in the tone she had used with me all my life, tired, slightly irritated. "You understand, she's having a hard time right now. Help your sister. The car will just sit there anyway." I closed my eyes. I counted to 5. "Okay," I said, "but only for 2 days. And be careful, please," Jenny promised. "Of course I'll be careful. Why would I want to wreck your old Tesla?" The next day, I left the keys with my parents. My mother took them without looking at me and put them on the dresser in the hall. Jenny wasn't home. She had gone out with her friends. I flew to Miami early in the morning. The plane was delayed for an hour, but I didn't care. I sat by the window, looked at the clouds, and thought that maybe a week away from everything was just what I needed. The hotel was awful. A small room with a window overlooking the parking lot, a bed with a squeaky mattress, a shower with a hose that barely stayed attached. But I didn't complain. In the morning, I went to the beach, sat on the sand, and looked at the ocean. I bought coffee in a paper cup for $2 and ate sandwiches from the nearest store. In the evening, I read the book I had brought with me. Nothing special. Just a novel about a woman who started a new life after a divorce. Predictable, saccharine, but I liked it. Jenny texted me once, on the 3rd day. "The interview went great, thanks for the car." I replied, "Okay, just be back on time." She didn't reply. I returned a week later. The plane landed at 4 in the afternoon. I took a taxi home, planning to pick up the car and go to work the next day. My vacation was over and it was time to return to reality. The taxi pulled up to my house and I saw the Tesla. It was parked in my usual spot, but something was wrong. I got out of the taxi, paid the driver, and walked closer. The front bumper was half torn off. The left headlight was smashed. The hood was dented as if someone had crashed into something at high speed. The radiator grill was hanging on one bracket, and the wheel was bent at a strange angle. I stood and stared. I couldn't believe it. This wasn't a scratch or a minor dent. It was a serious accident. "Lana," I heard a voice behind me. I turned around. Jenny was standing by the entrance, leaning against the wall. She was wearing a new blouse. Silk, light pink with pearl buttons. The kind I couldn't afford even at a discount. On her feet were new sneakers. White, clean, obviously expensive. On her face were my sunglasses. "It was a minor incident," she said, and held out her hand. In her hand, she held a rolled-up $50 bill. "Here, take this for the repairs." I looked at her and couldn't say a word. My throat was tight with anger, pain, and helplessness. "What happened?" I finally managed to say. Jenny shrugged. "I didn't see the curb," she said indifferently. "It was dark. I was driving fast. The music was playing. You idiot, don't make me feel guilty. Your car is old. It needed to be replaced anyway. Old. The car is 2 years old. I'm still paying off the loan. $437 a month. That's a quarter of my salary." I moved closer, trying to stay calm. "Jenny," I said quietly, "that's several $1,000s in repairs. What exactly happened? Where did you crash?" She took out her phone and checked her messages. "I don't remember," she replied without looking up. "Some curb in a parking lot. Or a pole. I don't know. God, what a drama. Here's $50. Take it and don't make a fuss." She held the bill in front of my face. I looked at her. My sister, who had wrecked my car and was now standing there in new clothes that cost more than she was offering me for repairs. "Jenny, you realize this is my car," I said, trying not to raise my voice. "I saved up for 3 years for it. This is no joke." She rolled her eyes. "Or do you want me to tell Mom and Dad that you're blaming me, that you yelled at me, swore at me? They already know you're always being dramatic." I clenched my fists. I breathed slowly, counting to 10. I knew that if I said anything now, it would backfire. It always did. I took the $50. Jenny smiled, satisfied, triumphant, and walked to her car. An old Honda that her parents had bought her 5 years ago and that still ran because Jenny hardly ever used it. I stood by the wrecked Tesla and watched her drive away. I went into the apartment. I threw my bag on the floor. I sat on the bed and took out my phone. I dialed my parents' number. My mother answered after the fourth ring. The TV was playing in the background, some talk show with loud laughter. "Mom," I said. Jenny crashed my car. Pause. The TV continued to blare. "Come on," my mother sighed. "Well, Jenny said it was just a joke. Have you made up yet?" I blinked. "What joke, Mom?" "She wrecked my Tesla. The bumper is torn off, the headlight is broken. That's thousands of dollars in repairs." "Don't be dramatic," Mom said. "Jenny said you were joking, that you let her drive your car and then got upset over a scratch. She didn't mean to hurt your feelings." "A scratch," I repeated. "Mom, it's not a scratch. It's a serious accident. The car is not drivable." "Well, you'll get it repaired," my mother said. "You have insurance." "The insurance doesn't cover it when I wasn't driving," I replied. "The deductible is high, and anyway, I heard my father pick up the phone. His voice was calm and measured. "Lana," he said, "you know your sister. She's not perfect, but she has a good heart. Forgive her. Don't make a big deal out of it." "She gave me $50, Dad," I said, feeling my voice start to tremble, "for repairs that cost thousands, and she called me an idiot." My father was silent for a few seconds. "You understand she didn't mean it," he said finally. "Jenny is emotional. She always has been. Don't take it to heart. Take the bus for a couple of days until you get it repaired." I hung up. I didn't say goodbye. I just pressed the red button and threw the phone on the bed. I sat on the floor and looked out the window. It was getting dark outside. Streetlights were coming on one by one, casting a yellow glow. My parents didn't see the car. They believed Jenny because they've always believed her. And me, I'm always the one who dramatizes, who exaggerates, who can't just forgive and move on. The next morning, I got up at 6. I got dressed, grabbed my bag, and went to the bus stop. Bus number 34 arrived at 6:30. I sat in the back seat, put my bag on my lap, and looked out the window. It was a long journey, a 15-minute walk to the bus stop, then 40 minutes on the bus to the center, a change to the number 12, another 20 minutes, and a 10-minute walk to the store. In the car, it took me 20 minutes. Mrs. Clark met me at the entrance. She looked at her watch. I was 5 minutes early and nodded approvingly. "How was your break?" she asked. "Fine," I replied. "Thank you." She didn't ask why I was on the bus. She just gave me a list of tasks for the day and went to the office. I worked. I arranged new lipstick on the shelves, helped customers choose cream, cleaned the display window. I spent my lunch break in the back room eating rice with vegetables that I had prepared at home in the morning. My colleague, Samantha, came in and sat down next to me. "Why are you taking the bus?" she asked. "Is your car broken?" "It's being repaired," I replied, without looking up. She nodded and didn't ask any more questions. The next 2 weeks were the same. Up at 6, bus, work, bus back. In the evening, I cooked food for the next day and washed my clothes by hand because the laundry cost $5 per cycle. I saved on everything. I didn't buy coffee, I didn't buy cosmetics. I even bought the cheapest shampoo for $3 instead of the usual $9. The $50 from Jenny lay in my wallet, tucked between receipts. Every time I saw them, I felt something tighten inside me. Not anger, not resentment, but something worse. Helplessness. I didn't repair the Tesla. I didn't have the money. The car stood by the house, broken, and every time I walked past it, I tried not to look. A month later, a woman called me. She spoke quickly, with an accent, about something to do with documents, real estate, and re-registration. I didn't understand what she was talking about and asked her to repeat herself, but the connection was poor. It kept dropping out and coming back. The conversation was cut off mid-sentence. I tried to call back, but the number couldn't be identified. I thought it was a mistake, or spammers. There have been too many of them lately. Calling, offering insurance, loans, some dubious investments. But something about this call made me feel anxious. The same anxiety I felt when I stood next to the wrecked car and looked at Jenny's smile. A month after the accident, I received a letter. It was a regular paper envelope with no return address. with the logo of a law firm called Walters and Partners. I opened it while standing by the mailbox and began to read. Dear Ms. Hartwell, we are writing to you in connection with the process of re-registering the property located at 32 Maple Street, house number 32. According to the documents provided, the property is being transferred to Ms. Jennifer Hartwell on the basis of a power of attorney issued by the late Mrs. Evelyn Hartwell. If you have any objections to this procedure, please contact us within 10 business days. I reread the letter 3 times. Maple Street, number 32. That's my grandmother's house. The house where I spent half my childhood, where I baked pies on the porch, where I sat under the old oak tree with a book in the summer. Jenny is trying to take it away. I called the firm immediately. A secretary answered, a woman with a dull voice who asked for the case number. I dictated it from the letter, and they connected me to a lawyer. Mr. Walters turned out to be a man in his 50s, with a voice that sounded like he was explaining something very simple to a very slow person. Ms. Hartwell, he said, we have received documents from your sister, a power of attorney issued by your grandmother a month before her death, in which she transfers the house to Ms. Jennifer Hartwell. Everything is legally documented and notarized. That's not true, I said. Grandma didn't leave her anything. She died suddenly of a stroke. She never mentioned any power of attorney. Mr. Walters sighed. The documents are dated January 2022, a month before your grandmother's death. The signature is similar, the notary's seal is in place. If you think something is wrong, you can order an expert examination, but it will cost money. How much? I asked. Between $500 and $1,000, depending on the complexity. I hung up the phone. I stood in the middle of the living room and looked at the letter. $500. That's half of what I've saved in 2 months to repair my car. But if Jenny takes the house, that will be the end of it. My grandmother will leave me only memories. I ordered an appraisal the next day. I gave all my savings, $620 to the appraiser, who promised to give me an answer in 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, I ate rice and eggs, walked to work, and tried not to think about it. But the thoughts wouldn't go away. Jenny did it. She forged documents to take the house that was the only place where I was loved. The expert called 13 days later. He said the signature was fake. The handwriting was similar, but the pressure was different. The slant of the letters was different. The notary's seal was real, but the document number did not match the registry. It was a forgery, he said, and an unprofessional one at that. I took the expert's conclusion and went to my parents' house. In the evening, when I knew everyone would be home, my father opened the door. He looked at me in surprise. I hadn't visited them in 2 months. Lana, he said, did something happen? I need to talk to everyone, I replied. I went into the living room. My mother was sitting on the couch watching a TV series. Jenny was lying in an armchair holding her phone. Neither of them even turned around. I walked over to the table and put the papers on it. Copies of the letter from the lawyer, the expert opinion, copies of the power of attorney that Jenny had filed with the court. Does anyone here know about this? I said. My mother finally looked up from the screen. She looked at the papers, then at me. What are you talking about, Lana? About Jenny trying to take Grandma's house. She forged documents to transfer it to herself. Jenny continued to lie in the chair. She didn't even move. Mother took the papers and scanned them. She put them back on the table. Lana, she said slowly, you know Grandma wanted Jenny to have support. She's not well. She needs the house. I looked at my mother and couldn't believe it. It's a forgery, Mom, I said, trying to stay calm. Grandma didn't leave her anything. The expert confirmed that the signature was fake. Father Ethan came to the table, took the papers, and looked at them. Lana, he said, don't make things up. Jenny just formalized what her grandmother promised her. Maybe the experts were wrong. The experts are not wrong, I said. These are forged documents. It's a crime. Jenny finally got up from her chair. She put her phone on the armrest and looked at me. Her face had a bored expression, as if we were discussing what to make for dinner. What, are you jealous? She said. You have a car. A job. You earn your own money. I have nothing. My grandmother wanted to help me, and I just did what she wanted, but I didn't have time to get it registered. You're lying, I said quietly. Grandma didn't love you. She said you'd grow up to be a failure. Jenny smiled. So what? She's dead. Her opinion doesn't matter anymore, and I need the house. I want to live there, renovate it, start a new life. You can't just take someone else's house, I said. It's a crime. My mother got up from the couch. Enough, Lano, she said sharply. Forget about it. Don't destroy the family over some old house. You're a smart girl. Jenny needs support, and you can live without it. I looked at my mother, my father, and Jenny. All three of them looked at me as if I had just asked for something impossible, as if I was the one who was behaving wrongly. I said nothing more. I took the papers from the table and left. The next morning, I went to see a lawyer, a young man named Ryan, whom I found on the internet. He specialized in cases involving forged documents and only took payment after winning in court. I showed him all the papers. He read them carefully for a long time, sometimes underlining something with a pencil. This is a clear forgery, he finally said. We have an expert opinion. There are discrepancies in the documents. The case is winnable. But you understand that your sister could be convicted? Yes, I replied. I understand. And you still want to go to court? Yes. Ryan nodded. Okay, we'll file tomorrow. The trial lasted 6 months. 6 months of hearings, papers, testimony. Ryan handled the case professionally, gathering evidence, calling witnesses, questioning experts. I sat in the courtroom at every hearing, watching Jenny try to justify herself. She said that her grandmother had indeed promised her the house, that she had talked to her before she died and said she wanted to help, that she had the documents drawn up through an acquaintance who worked at a notary office, and that perhaps a mistake had been made there. But the expert opinion was indisputable. The signature was fake. The seal did not match the register. The dates did not match. The document was allegedly drawn up on the day when her grandmother was in the hospital after her first stroke and could not sign anything. My parents did not come to court, not once. My mother called once, 3 months after the trial began. Lana, she said, her voice trembling, you are destroying your sister. She could go to prison. She is your sister. How can you do this? She destroyed me first, I replied and hung up. The trial continued. Ryan argued that Jenny had deliberately forged documents to take possession of someone else's property, that she knew her grandmother had left her nothing, that it was a crime, planned and executed. Jenny cried at the hearings. She said she didn't mean any harm, that she just wanted a roof over her head, that I was cruel, that I didn't understand how hard it was for her. The judge listened, took notes, showed no emotion. In the 6th month, the court handed down its verdict. Jenny Hartwell was found guilty of forging documents and attempting to illegally take possession of real estate. The punishment was 1.5 years in prison. The house was returned to the heirs of Evelyn Hartwell, namely her son Ethan Hartwell and his wife Lori Hartwell. I sat in the courtroom and listened to the verdict. Jenny cried. Her lawyer said something about an appeal. I looked at my sister and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, just emptiness. I left the courtroom. Ryan stopped me at the exit. You won, he said. Justice has been served. I nodded. I thanked him and left. I took the bus home. I never got the Tesla repaired. I didn't have the money. I sold it for $2,000 to a man who was going to repair it himself. That was all the money I had left after the expert examination and court costs. 2 months later, I got a call from an unknown number. A woman introduced herself as a real estate agent and said that the house on Maple Street had been sold. The new owners wanted to see it next week. I didn't understand. Who sold it? I asked. Your father, Ethan Hartwell. He's the owner. I hung up. I called my father. He answered after a long ring. You sold the house, I said. Yes, he replied calmly. We need the money. Jenny needs a lawyer for her appeal. And anyway, the house is old and needs repairs. We sold it for $90,000. Not a bad price. And you didn't think to tell me? Why? You're not the owner. The house belongs to your mother and me. We decide what to do with it." I closed my eyes. I breathed slowly. I fought in court for 6 months to get this house back. So what? We sold it. We need the money. Jenny needs help. I hung up the phone. I sat in the empty apartment and stared at the wall. My grandmother's house was sold. Jenny is in prison. My parents consider me their enemy. I am alone, without a car, without money, without a family. I won the court case, but I lost everything else. Chapter 5. Jenny was released from prison after a year and 2 months. Early release for good behavior. I found out about it from a message on my phone, a short one from an unknown number. "Hi, sis." I'm free. I deleted it. I tried not to think about it. But the next day, another one came. "You'll regret it." Then another, "I know where you live." And another, "I know where you work." I didn't reply. I blocked the numbers, but new messages came from others. Jenny was using some kind of disposable SIM cards or other people's phones. Every day there was a new message, short but clear enough for me to understand. She hadn't forgotten. A week later, I went to the police. A young officer, about 25 years old, listened to me and looked at the screenshots of the messages. "These are threats," I said. "My sister got out of prison and is threatening me." He flipped through the papers and looked at me. "Is she threatening physical violence? Is she saying she'll kill you or maim you?" "No, but—" "Then they're just words," he said. "Until there's a specific threat, there's nothing we can do. If she comes near you, contact us." "What if it's too late?" I asked. He shrugged. "Be careful. Don't reply to her messages. Block her." I left the station and realized there would be no help. The police can't arrest someone for their words, even if those words are frightening. Over the next few days, I tried to live a normal life. I went to work, came home, locked all the doors, but I felt like someone was watching me. Sometimes, walking down the street, I would turn around and see someone behind me, a person who quickly looked away. Maybe it was paranoia. Maybe not. One evening, I returned home after my shift. It was already dark, around 9 o'clock. I was walking from the bus stop to my house when I noticed a van. It was old, dark, bluish-gray, with rust on the doors and tinted windows. It was parked across the street from my building, the engine turned off. I walked past it, trying not to look. I entered the building, went up to my apartment, and closed the door. I went to the window and peeked through the curtain. The van was still there. I stood by the window for an hour, watching. The van didn't move. No one got out, no one got in. It just stood there. At 11 o'clock, I went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I lay with my eyes open, listening to every rustle outside the window. In the morning, when I woke up, the van was gone. The next night, it returned. It stood in the same place, dark and silent. I called the police and told them there was a suspicious vehicle near my house. A patrol car arrived, inspected the van, and checked the license plate. The officer called me back 20 minutes later. The vehicle was registered to a rental company. It was rented legally. No violations. "Are you sure it's a threat?" "I don't know," I replied. "It's just been parked there every night. Maybe someone is parking there." "That's not a crime. If you see anything suspicious, call us." On the third night, the van was gone, but I knew it would be back. This wasn't a coincidence. It was Jenny, or someone she hired. I called my parents. My mother didn't answer. My father answered after the 6th ring. "Dad," I said, "Jenny is stalking me. She's sending me threats and following me." He was silent for a few seconds. "Jenny has problems because of you," he said coldly. "A year in prison, a criminal record. Her life is ruined. What do you want from us? I want you to talk to her, tell her to stop. We won't get involved. You created this situation yourself. Live with the consequences." He hung up. I sat on the floor of my apartment and realized I was alone. My family had abandoned me. The police were powerless. Jenny was free and had all the time in the world to take revenge. The next morning, I went to Mrs. Clark and told her I was quitting. She looked at me in surprise. "Why? Had something happened?" "Personal reasons," I replied. She didn't press the issue. She signed the papers, gave me my last paycheck, $1,200, and said goodbye. She said she was sorry to see me go, that I'd been a good employee. I thanked her and left. That same day, I took all my things from the apartment. Clothes, documents, some dishes, everything fit into 2 bags. I left the rest behind. The furniture was rented, the dishes were cheap, not worth taking with me. I went to the bus station and bought a ticket to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Grandma Evelyn had always dreamed of moving there. She said there were beautiful mountains, clean air, peace, and quiet. She never made it, but I will. The bus ride took 2 days. I sat by the window, looked at the road, tried not to think. I slept in fits and starts, ate sandwiches I bought at the stops. The other passengers didn't talk to me, and I was grateful for that. Albuquerque greeted me with heat, dry, scorching heat that hit my face as soon as I got off the bus. I took a taxi and asked the driver to take me to the cheapest motel. He took me to the Desert Refuge, a 1-story motel on the outskirts of town, with peeling paint on the walls and a neon sign that barely glowed. The room cost $30 a night. I rented it for a week. I paid in cash. The clerk, a man in his 60s with a gray beard, didn't even ask my name. The room was small. A bed, a table, a chair, a TV, a shower. The window overlooked the parking lot. I threw my bags on the floor, lay down on the bed, and closed my eyes. For the first 2 weeks, I felt safer. No one knew where I was. No messages, no calls. I walked around town, bought food in small shops, sat in the park, looked at the mountains in the distance. I tried to breathe. Then the van appeared. The same color, dark blue, old with tinted windows. It pulled up in the evening and parked at the opposite end of the parking lot. I stood by the window and watched it. I couldn't believe it. Jenny had found me. The van stayed there for 3 nights in a row. I didn't sleep. I sat on a chair by the window with my phone in my hands, ready to dial 911 at any moment. But nothing happened. The van just stood there. No one got out, no one approached. On the 4th day, it disappeared. I thought maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe someone was just parking there. But 5 days later, it came back. This time it was closer, right in front of my window. I looked at it and felt fear tighten my throat. This is no coincidence. It's Jenny, or someone she hired. She knows where I am. She's watching me. I called the local police. I explained the situation, my sister, the threats, the van. The officer arrived an hour later and inspected the parking lot. The van was already gone. No evidence, he said. If you see it again, take a photo of the license plate and call immediately. But there was no license plate. The van had no license plates. I tried to call my parents. One last time. My mother didn't answer the phone. My father hung up after the first ring. I wrote them a message. Jenny is stalking me. Please help. There was no response. I sat in my motel room and realized that there would be no help. No one would come. No one would protect me. I was on my own. The van would appear and disappear. Sometimes it would stay for 3 nights, sometimes a week. Sometimes it would disappear for 10 days, and I would start to think it was over. But then it would come back. I changed my phone number, but the messages kept coming. Jenny found new ways to contact me. Email, social media, even paper letters that someone slipped under the motel door. Did you think a year in prison was a lot? I'll give you a lifetime in the prison of fear. You'll never be able to sleep peacefully again. I didn't respond. I deleted the messages and burned the letters. But they kept coming. Now I'm sitting in a motel room. It's 3 a.m. Outside the window is a parking lot lit by the dim yellow light of a street lamp. There's a van in the parking lot, dark, silent with tinted windows that reveal nothing. My phone is on the table, the last message from an unknown number. Will you ever fall asleep? I'll wait. I don't reply. I look out the window. The van isn't moving. Maybe there's no one there. Maybe it's just a car. But I know that's not true. Jenny is waiting. She's in no hurry. She doesn't have to do anything. Just wait until I break down, until fear eats me up inside. I can't go to the police. There's no evidence. I can't go home. It'll be even worse there. I can't call my family. They've rejected me. I'm alone, in a cheap motel, in a strange city, without friends, without support. The van is parked outside the window, and I don't know how long this will last. A week? A month? A year? Jenny wants me to live in fear, and she's succeeded. But I don't regret it. I stood up for justice. I proved she was a criminal. I put her behind bars. It was my victory, even if the price was so high. Grandma Evelyn used to tell me, "Don't let anyone use you, not even your family." I didn't. I look out the window. The van is still there. I don't know who's inside. I don't know what will happen next, but I know one thing. I made a choice, and I live with the consequences. It's not a happy ending. It's not salvation. It's just life. Hard, scary, unfair. But it's my life, and I decided to fight, even if the fight cost me everything. I close the curtain. I sit on the bed. My phone is lying next to me. The screen is dark. I could text Jenny. I could ask her to stop. I could beg. But I won't text her, because then she wins. I lie down on the bed and stare at the ceiling. Outside the window, I hear another car pulling up. Maybe it's the van leaving. Maybe someone else is arriving. I don't get up to check. I just lie there and breathe. Tomorrow will be a new day. The van may come back, or it may not. Messages may come, or they may not. But I will endure, because that's all I have left.